The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Let's listen as Lorraine Lapointe, coach, therapist, educator, speaker, and founder of Head Heart Synergy, brings together another enlightened guest to inspire and motivate us to move forward, achieve our dreams and desires, so that we experience midlife awakening.
And I'm your host, Lorraine Lapointe. Today we'll enjoy another candid conversation that reveals how to bring back a sense of balance and how to find forward focus. Today, take just a few moments to join us as we explore the possibilities and the perspectives that provide us with greater inner peace, power, passion, and purpose. Because that's what I call living at the edge of fulfillment in a midlife awakening.
Well, hello and welcome back and welcome to our audience all over the world. You know, for many women, there comes a time after raising a family or working in a career that she takes just a moment to ask really important questions that she hasn't had a lot of time for before. You know, questions like, is this all there is? What do I really want? And most importantly, who might I become if I had it? And funnily enough, after asking such questions, we often find ourselves surprised with the answers that come to light. Well, at least I was, because now I know that the moment a woman realizes she has the power to create what she wants in her life, her reality changes. She begins her journey as a savvy goddess. But the path is not always obvious. For instance, in my early years, success felt really elusive. I was focused outward. It always seemed as if I was, running after and chasing that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and, of course, never getting it. So whenever I thought about what I wanted, my inner negative saboteur voices would suggest, that's too much. Have you ever heard that? Or that's not available to you. Or you should stay small and be safe. And for years, I maintained a low profile, being unseen and unheard, feeling like a little mouse being hunted by a very large cat. I bet some of you relate to having that anxious feeling. But that really changed in my 40s. And it was during the time when I navigated the loss of my parents that I really stepped into my own personal power. I had to learn to maintain a mindset of wellness, and I had to discover that only took a few minutes, a few times each day. And with a more positive mindset, I could recognize the things that held me back. And that was simply part of me that was worried about being overly exposed. So understanding this allowed me to shift out of that sense of fear and become fully empowered as a savvy goddess. And that's what makes me free to share here on the radio and Talk for TV show. So I'm going to ask you, are you a savvy goddess too? If you are, go ahead and put yes in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. But before I dive in further, I've got to introduce myself for those who I don't know yet. I'm Lorraine Lapointe. I'm your host, and many think of me as a guide who helps women like us to live more satisfied and fulfilled lives. And sometimes life isn't what we'd hoped it would be by the midpoint. And let's clarify, we're always at the midpoint, somewhere between like here and there, right? In midlife, I love that term, that midlife. Just what is that? Anyway, about our 40s, our brain chemistry changes, and we start to wonder what to do with all that heavy, uncomfortable stuff that keeps getting in the way. And what I found is that most of us want to feel lighter and more joyful, to experience a sense of calm. We want to be confidently in control, living a life that we love. And that's why I enjoy helping you create your daily mindset wellness practice, especially in these difficult times. And you can begin to experience what I call the four elements that make life shine. So I'm glad you're here on the edge of fulfillment with us on this lovely show, here on the Women for Women Network Radio and Talk for TV, and joining us in this inspiring, safe, and sacred space while we explore different ways of living with the four elements, which are peace, power, passion, and purpose. And each week we meet a new guest who helps us discover new possibilities and perspectives as they share insights into more balanced living, deepening your relationships, and how to mindfully move forward so that we go beyond the edge and into fulfillment. And today, whether you're here live or you've come across us at a later time, when you hear something in the conversation that you find curious or that shakes you up a bit, let us know. We invite you to engage and connect with us because for each comment, like, or share, my company, Head Heart Synergy, sponsors a day's worth of fresh water wherever it's needed most in the world through b1g1.com. So when you participate in the show, you help me to help those who need it most. And by the way, we love to answer your questions. So just add like a hashtag and the word question and shape this program into something that's most interesting for you. And I want to thank you, our listeners and our viewers, for being here with us either live or sometime in the future, because your mission today, should you choose to accept it, is to listen for different ideas, thoughts, feelings that inspire and motivate you to more easily express your authentic, savvy goddess. The self is who you are being. So, after this short break, we'll connect with today's guest who works on a really deep level. And we'll hear all about her thoughts about being a savvy goddess. And you are listening here on the Edge of Fulfillment on W4WN. That's the Women for Women Network Radio and Talk for TV. And we'll be right back after this short break.
Mental fitness, the missing X factor for enhancing performance, achievement, and success. Mental fitness empowers you with the magic of 3: stabilized mood, peace of mind, deeper relationships. Time to make it happen? Grow the self-command muscle. Intercept your self-defenses. Build your inner wisdom. In less than 15 minutes a day, gain the missing X factor. Let me show you how.
There comes a time we wonder, what's next? For women like us, as we stand at the edge of fulfillment, are you feeling unsettled, restless, not quite right? That's midlife awakening. Are you looking for fulfillment? Or to squeeze more juice out of life? Midlife awakening at the edge of fulfillment, don't miss it. We understand. By phone or laptop, wherever you are, come join us. Friday 10 a.m. Eastern Time, on Head Heart Synergy Facebook business page, or here, on the Women for Women Network Radio and Talk for TV.
Welcome back. Let's do a quick recap. Today, our topic asks you to think about the question, are you a savvy goddess? We're delighted to welcome our guest today to share with us her thoughts about being considered a savvy goddess. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Michaela Lambert is sometimes also referred to as a dating empowerment mentor. She works with women who want to create love and a life that they deserve and desire. And Michaela Lambert is with us from sunny England. Well, at least we'll find out if it's sunny. Where she's known as a transformational love coach. So let me stop talking about her and bring her out. Hello, Michaela. Thanks for
Oh,
being with us.
hi, Lorraine. Thank you so much for inviting me to your wonderful show. I absolutely love the intro, and everything that it stands for is just perfect and spot on for our conversation. So, really looking forward to this today. It's wonderful.
And so is it sunny England? I said sunny England, but
No, unfortunately, it's very rarely sunny England, and especially not in late January. So, but we did have some quite sunny weather about a week ago, so we can't complain too much. Yeah, it's
well,
good.
that's good. And England can be like other places in the world. It's the sunshine can come from within, right?
Oh, yes,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
So, something our listeners might find really surprising about you is that you were widowed under difficult circumstances at a time when you lived I believe, on an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Is that right?
Mhm. Yes, that is absolutely right, Lorraine.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like a novel,
Yeah.
the beginning of a good novel. And, I hope you don't mind me saying that. But I'd love to hear more about your story. Where would you like to begin?
Yeah, so I guess begin at the beginning, as Maria von Trapp would say, it's a very good place to start. Um,
Mhm.
so although I grew up in the UK, I actually moved to the island of Mauritius,
Hmm.
which is my heritage island. So both my parents or my forefathers had come from Mauritius, and I moved there like when I'd finished my studies in the UK. And yeah, it was a great life. I found my soulmate. He was really like a mentor to me. And we had a really beautiful, simple life on that island. And um, I've spent 14 years together and with two children. So I had two children. And then I'll never forget, it was one Christmas time. And I was in my late 30s by then, my mid 30s, sorry, I should say. And I was in the doctor's office because my husband had suddenly taken a really bad turn, um, and in the hospital. And the doctor was just, I couldn't believe my ears, was saying that my husband actually had stage 4 lung cancer, and there was like no hope. So it was really like, the my world had just crumbled in that moment, and nothing really was the same. So yeah, we kind of worked through for 8 months, supporting him through all the treatment and everything, and it was really hard. I mean, it's a developing country, so actually, dealing with doctors and the medication and the support that he got in that time, and it was 2010 then,
Mm.
um, wasn't great, and unfortunately, we actually lost him.
Mm.
And I found myself as a single mom in a almost like a fishbowl. Mauritius is like a big village, although
Mm.
it has a population of about 1 million. Everybody knows each other. Mm. And yeah, and everybody knew what I'd been through. Everybody knew that I had been in this great relationship, and now everybody knew that he was now gone, and I was now a single mum, and my youngest child was actually only 8 months old when we lost
Oh,
him.
wow.
Yeah, so that was like definitely the
So
n-
you had just become pregnant when you had that news by the sound.
so he was 8 months old. No, he was 8 months old when I got the news.
Oh my
So
goodness.
actually, so he was over a year. Sorry, my
Yeah.
it's all those 2 years. It's so weird. Those 2 years that I was just in that moment of everything, just even now, just still seems a little bit. It gets a little bit mixed up because
It's a bit foggy. That's how I
yeah,
feel still about that period when my parents were dying and of different
right,
cancers in the hospital together.
right. Oh
At least they
gosh,
did it together. But
yeah.
yeah, it's that fog, it's that confusion, that
Hmm.
inability to really your brain, it's protection, really.
Exactly. And looking back now, I'm seeing, oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much, Rachel. That's
Thanks,
lovely.
Rachel. Yeah.
But yeah, no, looking back now, when I sort of see the big picture, I actually see now that going through that and having to, as you put it, like navigate through the loss and where to next, who am I? All these questions came up for me. And I would have been, by that stage, I would have been like 37.
Yeah.
So I was
it's
coming
close
up
to 40.
close to 40. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I was, you know, and it was almost like a, well, you know, anything's possible. I got to the stage and I thought, well, anything is now possible, you know.
Is that the gift that you found in it? Like, I talked a little bit about when my parents were dying, I didn't have any choice. I had to start working on my positive mindset. And what that gave me was the ability to see things from a different perspective and find the gift, even in the most horrific of circumstances. And death and dying and loss are horrible circumstances. But for me, I call it the gift. That was my parents' gift to me.
Yeah,
It changed my life.
It does, and it's a massive teacher of so many things, isn't it? You discover so many hidden resources inside of yourself and hidden qualities and strengths and everything, and that keeps you going, because you've got a choice, isn't it? You can either just crumble and completely go to seed, which I did for a while.
Which is
Honestly,
okay.
I did.
Which is okay. Sometimes we need to do a little bit of crumbling.
Yeah. I remember just one time, you know, like it was a weekend and I was still, you know, I was teaching, I was working, I was a mum and a teacher. And I just remember looking around my house and honestly, it looked like a bomb had hit it, because the kids had just been playing and I was just whatever. And I just remember thinking, oh, this is my life now. This is going to be my life now. And then I remember stopping myself thinking, no, this is not what. There was just something that stopped me and told me that, no, this is not what your life has to be or is going to be. And I just had that flash of insight. And so that's really, so I spent 2 more years actually in Mauritius after the loss. And then at some point during that time, I made the decision to actually uproot my kids, sell everything off and move back to the UK.
That's a huge decision.
Yeah.
It's a relocation, geographic relocation.
Yeah.
Especially from the Indian Ocean.
I know. And so, I mean, I'm so grateful because I kind of knew what I was going to go back to, although everything had changed, obviously, by the time I'd been out of the country for like over 15 years, 16 years. So things had massively, now it was all very techy and everything, but I was ready to start over. I knew that was really my only chance of starting again, giving my kids the kind of life that I knew they couldn't have if we'd stayed on the island and I'd been like a single parent there.
Right.
Yeah. So that's really what prompted that decision there, Lorraine.
So I'm getting a sense of intuition here. So it wasn't so much that you had something to come to England directly for, but that sense that you needed to begin again and you knew where to begin again. I call that intuition. And that's to me a bit of tapping into that savvy goddess. I love that term, savvy goddess, because each of us has her in us as part of her. Yeah.
Totally.
So do you want to talk a little bit more about how that all happened and how that was for you? I mean,
yeah, so it was crazy. I mean, it was heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking to leave behind this paradise island and come back in like late autumn back to the UK. So we were going into the coldest time of the year from the hottest time of the year over in Mauritius. And my
when you make a change, you make a big one, don't you?
yeah, yeah. And I remember my oldest son, who was at the time was 10, and he just didn't understand, because he'd grown up like barefooted, playing and climbing coconut trees, playing on the beach and all of this. And he just couldn't understand why first thing in the morning, I was saying, you can't go and play in the garden. Like I'd be like, it's freezing out there. Why are you even thinking about going and playing in the garden? So yeah, he just was very confused. He went through a very confused period, I think. But yeah, it was very humbling, I have to say, to just begin again. We came over with our suitcases, and I was very lucky that I had, like, my mom was still here, so I lived with my mom for a bit. I mean, that's not always easy as an adult moving back in with a parent. And
I'm sure there's some listeners that have some comments about trying to live as an adult in their parents' houses.
Yeah,
not pretty.
yeah. And I but I was very blessed. I worked very hard. I retrained and got my actual teaching qualifications. Although I'd been working as a teacher in an overseas international school, I never had a teaching qualification as such. So it was humbling. I was going back into like the beginning again and starting again. Everything was starting over. And I was, in my late 30s, and I loved it. I felt like, do you know what? It was almost like I really felt like I'd been given this second chance. I had been given the second chance. And I started to think to myself, well, what were the things that I really used to enjoy and love, like when I was younger? And I was thinking back, and I was like, well, in school, I was a great netball player. I don't know if you have netball in Canada. I know you're in Canada. You
Probably called something else here, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what is it, like basketball or
it's a bit
volleyball?
Like but it's just for women or girls. Okay. And so so I had I was like, I'm gonna take up netball again. And
haven't played in 20 years.
Haven't played in 20 years, but I did. I got involved in the league and, played with the team, and that was great fun. And I loved that. And I loved the feeling. And I was like, gosh, I'm feeling like I'm I'm like I'm a teenager again, because not only was I living at my mom's, I was I was playing netball again. And then I was like, and I used to love doing drama and amateur dramatics. And I got involved, and I did some acting with, local drama groups and things. And that was great fun as well. And it was a renaissance. I will really just say that it gave me that opportunity just to, move into my 40s and be, and almost like have, and this is going to sound a bit strange, but it was like having a second, like, youth. I felt really young again. And I'd got to that stage, I think, with the, inside of my long-term relationship, it was very comfortable, but we didn't, it was just what it was. And then going through the, the terrible time of the illness and the death and the tragedy and all of that. Now, all of a sudden, I had this like new lease of life, and I felt alive again. And and that's really when I was like, okay, I'm ready to date again. This is great. I feel like time has passed, and I've really kind of found out a lot more about myself and who I am and what I want, and now I'm ready to date. And so that's what I did.
Yeah, let's not gloss over that because I think that's really important for some of our viewers and listeners. I mean, it's that, again, that intuitive piece that tells you I'm ready, and you can powerfully choose and create this when you know what you want in your life. Like I'm fascinated by your story, and it's so inspiring because there's so many people who go through life and sleeping. I'll call it sleeping, and then they get to their life, the end of life, and then they look back and that's where regrets are. And regret is a horrible emotion.
Oh Yes. Oh, 100%.
And so
100%.
if you can kind of be shaken awake at this
Yeah.
point and start making those choices, like
Yeah.
like you might choose to do exactly what you're doing, but choosing to do exactly what you're doing is different than just going through the motions.
Absolutely. It's that empowered choice. It's that feeling that this is what I want to be doing. And I know that I want to be doing this. Like I've got this conviction. I so want to be there and I want to, and as you say, it's this, like they call it a wake up call. So,
Mhm.
you kind of, and you can choose to listen to that or you can choose to just ignore that.
Yeah, and sometimes the parts of us, like I do a lot of parts therapy, and I'm very aware of my parts as I'm discovering new ones all the time. But
Mm,
sometimes there are parts of us that don't want us to do anything new. Like when I was
mm,
younger, those saboteur voices inside. This is not for you. There's nothing here for you. You're too, don't do that. It's too scary, too risky, too this, too that.
yes.
And then sometimes circumstances of life just, are such that those parts have to take a back seat and
Mm.
other
Oh.
parts take their place.
And it's funny, sometimes those parts that, so because as you were saying that, what came to me was when I got into dating, I had all these, I overcame all those saboteurs were like, which were like, you don't want to show up, you don't want to, it's too much. And I overcame those and that was great, but they can still come back again
Yeah, yeah,
later when in a different
the
in a different
saboteurs can be,
context. Yeah.
yeah, they can be dialed down. They
Hmm.
don't ever go away. They can be
Yeah.
dialed down, and
Mm.
and your wiser self, your savvy goddess, can step
Yes.
in. But it is a consistent requirement to work on your mindset so that it doesn't slip into saboteur mode. I find. I'm wondering, do you have any insights in how to connect to that goddess within? I'm sure that there are listeners who would love to,
Mm.
even if they have an inkling that they haven't done this yet, but any
Yeah.
insights?
Yeah, I mean, totally. So, and that's I mean, that's a huge piece, and I love that you're mentioning that because yeah, there are, I mean, a number of ways, and I think the easiest way is really just to um, be able to get into a nice, relaxed, and calm state, and then tune in and ask yourself a question,
Hmm.
and check in with yourself, and the first thing in the morning is really when I love to start to do that. Just when, still in my bed, still in my bed, and I just, slowly wake up and come to consciousness. Oh, hi,
Oh, thanks,
Diana.
Diana. That's so lovely. She loves
Lovely.
listening to Michaela,
Oh.
and thank you for sharing. Yes, isn't this awesome conversation? And thank you, Michaela. I'm thanking you as well. Thanks, Diana.
So, yeah, so we basically get really still, quiet, and then just ask myself this question and just say, what intention am I setting for myself today?
Mm.
And then just nice, calmly breathing. And then I just wait for the answer to come up. And like, so for today, this morning, I knew that I was going to have this interview with you, this discussions, conversation. And I was just like, connected conversation. And I just made myself a lovely visual image of that. And that feeling, got myself into the feeling of how that would feel. So yeah, there's so many different ways, Lorraine. I mean, I think, but that's like the simplest way is like practicing tuning in and checking in and asking yourself just some very open questions and waiting for what comes up inside, because what comes up from inside, that is your savvy goddess talking to you and telling you
Yeah,
that's your higher self and
you
everything.
don't have to make her. She's already there.
She knows.
You can just
She's on
discover
it.
her. What I loved about what you just said, Michaela, and for me, I'll just put it in my words because sometimes the way we say things
Mm,
appeals to different people.
mhm.
But for me, what I really tuned into there was you said that you waited for the answer. To me, it's giving yourself the space to answer, because sometimes it's referred to as a monkey mind, right? Our mind goes, blah, 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 blah. So one of the greatest things that I enjoy working with my clients on is teaching them the skills and the tools to turn down that monkey mind, specifically so they can give themselves a space, so that they can hear the goddess within, so they can hear that quiet, whispery, but powerful voice. Oh, like, yes, Rachel, like manifesting your inner desires, if they're even as simple as having a well-connected conversation. Absolutely. I mean, as a younger person, much younger, that was my problem with chasing, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I was chasing things. I thought to be successful, you needed things, you needed stuff. You know, I didn't understand how powerful the goddess is within.
Isn't that funny? Because those things are really just out there. Those are the things that, they're just those outer manifestations of actually a different state of what you actually desire. And I think those things that they become, as soon as you've got it, what happens? You're on to the next thing when you're focusing on the things, isn't it? And it's so transient, and it doesn't ultimately bring you that fulfillment that you're looking for.
And that's exactly what this show is all about. It's called The Edge of Fulfillment for a reason. My philosophy is we're all standing on the edge. Every day we stand on the edge. And sometimes we get enough courage to go beyond the edge and into fulfillment. And what I'm hearing you say is that's where your savvy goddess is.
100%.
She knows. Just like that big move from the island back to UK. I mean, for some people that would be like mind-blowing in terms of the things that you would need to change in a move like that. And and I want to acknowledge your courage and your fortitude and your savviness for having the courage to do that. And so I hear that you have love in your life again. So you started dating. And tell us what that was all about.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I sort of became, I really dated with a lot of curiosity. I think that's probably the word that would sum up how I actually went about it. And I am, I'm quite academic. I
wouldn't have picked that up because I'm not either.
But I was like, I wonder what will happen if I do this, or if I say this, or if I show up like this, or if I go out with this sort of a person and this sort of a person and this sort of a person. And basically I crammed into the space of about 3 years worth of dating. A lot of different experiences, some not great ones, some okay ones, and a couple of good ones. But everything taught me, and I was a real believer that everything was happening for a reason. Everything was happening. Each rejection was bringing me closer to the person that I really wanted to be with. And
were they rejections, or were they, this is not a good fit? I think that the word rejection is what keeps people from dating and keeps people out of the search for the love of their life. And there's a fear of rejection. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. So is it really rejection?
It's totally not. It's totally not rejection. And you're absolutely spot on. It is a mismatch. And so if the person that you think is great and you've chatted to them and you want to, move things forward with, suddenly disappears off the face of the earth, believe you me, that's an amazing sign. You found out really quickly that he wasn't your match. It is a gift.
Although ghosting doesn't feel like a gift. Ghosting feels
No.
like, so there's those saboteurs again. What's wrong with me? What
Mhm.
did I do? What could I
Yeah,
have done differently? Blah, 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 blah. And
exactly.
they get out of that saboteur mind. And as you said, it's actually a gift. I mean,
Mhm.
when I was doing online dating myself, there were all kinds of situations where I was ghosted. And you can get stuck in that belief that you've been rejected, or you can accept the belief that you've been actually protected from something.
That's the
Your
thing.
choice.
That's the thing. It's a choice. Exactly. It totally is a choice. And then the question there is, well, which is the more empowering choice? Well,
Mm.
I mean, the more empowering choice is that you've been protected, and it is rejection is God's protection. So, that is just
I
a
love that's a
nice
great
way.
line. Rejection is
So,
God's protection. I love that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a writer downer. As a friend of mine used to say when she heard
Write it
something
down.
interesting. Yes, Diana, there's a lesson in every encounter. Absolutely, Diana. Yeah.
Totally.
And dating is not easy because we are putting ourselves out there.
Mm.
You're saying actually that there is something missing in your life and you're opening yourself to accept something new. And I think that piece
Hmm.
of um,
Yeah.
the dating
It
is perhaps challenging.
it can be challenging, but and then that this is the big paradox then, is that you are only going to attract a meaningful relationship with somebody by opening yourself up and being vulnerable, ultimately. So, if you're going to be approaching dating with the feelings that there's something missing in my life, or there's something wrong with me, or I'm dating to fill
Mm.
a gap or a hole in my life, then you're going to more likely attract um, men who are coming with, not really a great mindset or a great energy. You're going to attract a lower quality of partner ultimately, because you want to be attracting somebody who is like you, on the same level of fulfillment, and who has that sort of belief and self-worth, that they actually
Mhm.
deserve a great relationship and a great person.
So what I'm hearing you say is probably, and maybe this is what you would recommend, is before you open yourself to dating, you get to the point where you are satisfied and fulfilled with who you are
Yes.
as an individual
Yeah.
and ready to share your savvy goddessness with some other satisfied, fulfilled person so that you can bring the two together and make something greater. Am I?
Ye I think that you're right, and I would also just put in the caveat that that doesn't mean to say that you have to be, like, fully healed, or fully, like, and do years and years of inner work and the rest of it, but that you haven't.
Because we're never finished,
We're never
right?
finished, no.
That might be like a uh-oh to some people, but you never
Yeah,
finish. The
no.
layers of the onion are never finished
Mm.
peeling.
Definitely, definitely. But it's about really getting clear and acknowledging that, that you have some wounds that are there, and some deep wounds, really, that come back all the way from, even childhood, that are going to be, you know, uh, influencing at a subconscious level the kind of partners that you're attracting to you.
Well, what's interesting about that is my own work has taken me into intergenerational trauma.
Mm,
And the fact
mm.
that sometimes we carry trauma that isn't even our own, it's in our DNA and it comes through family lines and genetic lines, but it's actually quite interesting because it's amazing to me how many of us are walking around with the burdens of intergenerational trauma that we're not aware of. And we
Oh,
bring
yeah.
all of that into our dating lives, our love lives, our lives in relationships with others. And so, you know,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that doesn't mean don't have relationship. It means relationships will help us expose these things so that we can heal them.
exactly. And you know, very often the type of partner that you end up attracting is the person that you attract that's going to really help you to heal that relationship that you might have had more, with one of your parents, for example. Yeah. So they were, and or even that intergenerational, that sort of from even back even before that. Yeah.
Well, can I tell a little story? It's kind of off topic, but Diana just mentioned she'd like to know a little bit more about the
Oh,
trauma. And
for
and
sure.
many people think the word trauma means something absolutely devastating, but it doesn't necessarily have to. Let me give you a little story to illustrate, if that's all right with you, Michaela.
Yeah, of
And then
course.
a little girl was in the kitchen with her mom, and I've told this story before, but I'm not sure that all of our listeners have heard it. So a little girl was in the kitchen with mom, and mom was preparing the ham for dinner, and she
Mhm.
cut the end off the ham and put the ham in the pan. And the little girl said, "Why do we cut the end off the ham, mom?" And mom said, "Well, that's the way it's always done." And she said, "But why?" She says, "I don't know, honey. Go ask grandma."
Okay.
So she goes and asks grandma, and I'll cut a long story short. But she goes and asks grandma, and she says, "Grandma, why do we cut the end off the ham?" And she said, "Well, because I didn't have a pan big enough."
You see, yeah, that's
And
incredible. I love it.
so quite
Mhm.
often we do things automatically because
Yeah.
that's the way they're done.
Mm.
And when we aren't aware that, like grandma might not have had a pan big enough, but mom sure did. So, and it can be
I
as
love
easy as
that.
that to tweak and change
Mm.
some trauma. Now, I'm not making light of intergenerational trauma. There's all
Mm.
kinds of other traumas that we need to also reveal and heal, but they're not always devastating. They're not always
Yeah.
huge and overwhelming. Sometimes they're actually fun and ridiculous.
That story is just, yeah, that sort of sums it up, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
it, but being like, first of all, mindful and knowing that for that reason, like, of why we do things, being conscious and being aware of why we react and why we get triggered at certain points and things like
If the
that is,
little girl had never asked the question, it would
yeah.
never come to light.
No, exactly.
It's okay to wonder why we do things. Like, why is it that I always seem to go out with the same kind of person? Change
Mm,
their hair, change their eyes, change their height, their weight, whatever you want, but it's the same
mm.
person over and over and over again.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have a lot of people come to me and want to know why. Well, then
Yeah.
let's find out why you're attracting that kind. And
Totally.
what you can change inside and heal inside so that that type of person is not the person you attract anymore.
100%. And once you've changed that attraction pattern in yourself, and you've healed that, um, and you've really got to the point where you really do feel worthy and deserving of a partner who doesn't have any of those traits, you will automatically stop feeling attracted by those sorts of traits. And in fact, you will feel repulsed by them.
Yeah.
And that it just won't happen again. Yeah,
Well,
great story.
and tell us a little bit about our feeling as a savvy goddess. When women, like, you've got a class or a mastermind coming up that you're working on for savvy goddesses, correct? And
Yes.
yeah, and I would love to hear more about that because the show, unfortunately, we're like the time is just zipping by, but it's designed to help us step into who we are. I think I'm not going to keep on going. You tell us about.
Yeah, so really, it's aimed at women who have felt that there are some things in within themselves that they really want to um, they want to access that part of themselves that really is that divine part of themselves, that goddess part of themselves. And the savvy actually came from a little acronym that came about through the work that I do with single women who want to date and find a soul aligned partner, a soulmate. And so really, the savvy really came out of the acronyms for this. So I'm just going to explain the acronyms.
Are you willing to share them?
Yeah, for sure. So the S is all about setting your intentions, getting super clear and dialing in, having that clarity of what it is that you really want in a partner, in a relationship, for yourself. Getting really clear. So once that's done, and these are like keys really. So the order that you do them in isn't necessarily as important as going through each of these phases. And then the A stands for alignment. So really getting aligned, getting your mindset aligned with your vision, clearing out, doing all that spring cleaning. So really that you bring your awareness to areas, your saboteurs, bringing your awareness to the things that are really holding you back. Like, why are you repeatedly attracting the same sorts of relationships? And doing some work to really heal those attraction patterns. And then moving on to the first V, which is about vibrating. And so this is like this is the goddess part of it, really, because it's helping you to learn how to really vibrate at higher energetic levels. And this is a really key part of actually manifesting and law of attraction, and ensuring that the practices that you're doing, almost making them into a ritual so that you can really bring in and call in that partner that you're looking for. And in fact, anything, and it doesn't have to stop just with a partner, anything in life really that you're desiring to call in. And then V is for vitalize. So this is the part where you really just come alive and you get back into things and you reconnect with that, I suppose, that childlike, playful quality of curiosity and wanting more and being involved and showing up. A little 2-year-old, if you watch a 2-year-old little girl or a 3-year-old little girl, before they've had the pressure of, parents saying, oh, you're too much, or you've got to be quiet, or, you've never had people really telling you to stay small, to be quiet. It takes that away. So getting really vital. And then the last part is yielding to the process, letting things happen in their own time, not forcing things, and just allowing things to flow. So that makes up savvy.
That is absolutely beautiful, Michaela. And we are right at the top of the show. So I want to thank you for sharing that with our audience. And that is a beautiful summation of what a savvy goddess is all about. And I want to thank you for being here today.
Oh, Lorraine, and I'd love to thank you as well for this opportunity. I've really enjoyed the conversation. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I want to thank all of our listeners and viewers here today on The Edge of Fulfillment. And every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on Head Heart Synergy Facebook fan page, or W4WN.com, which is the Women for Women Network Radio, or Talk for TV. And if you'd like to join other like-minded people, I have a Facebook group called Mindfully Moving Forward, so you can reach out there, or you can also reach me at support@Head Heart Synergy. I believe we've had your email on our ticker, Michaela, so that our listeners and viewers can look you up. Your Facebook address, which is the Savvy Goddess Love Coach, or Michaela at yoursecondsoulmate.com. And I'm just going to take this point to say this. I am your host. Oh, you're so welcome, Diana, and you as well, Rachel. And Sherry, so good to see you. I am your host, Lorraine Lapointe, reminding you that at the edge of fulfillment, there's always a choice. You can stay on the edge and always get what you've always got or already got, or become just a little bit courageous, step into your savvy goddess, and move beyond the edge to get what you really want. And we'll see you next week.